The final charita of the Devi Mahatmyam. Meditation on Maha Saraswati. Om. I worship the incomparable Maha Saraswati, who holds in her lotus-like hands the bell, trident, plough, conch, mace, discus, bow, and arrow, who is effulgent like the moon shining at the edge of a cloud, who is the support of the three worlds, and who came forth from the body of Gaudi to destroy Shumba and other Asuras. Chapter 5. The Devi's Conversation with the Messenger. Om Klim. The seer said, long ago, grown arrogant with power, the Asuras Shumba and Nishumba seized Indra's sovereignty over the three worlds, and his share of the sacrifices. In like manner they usurped the authority of the sun and the moon, and that of Kubera, Yama, and Varuna, the lords of wealth, death, and the ocean. They seized the wind god's power and Agni's functions. The gods were defeated, deposed, and driven out. Stripped of their powers and cast out by those two great Asuras, all the gods remembered the invincible Devi. She granted us a boon, saying, whenever you remember me in times of distress, from that very moment I will put an end to all your worst calamities. With that in mind, the gods went to Himalaya, the lord of mountains, and there they praised the Devi, who is Vishnu Maya. The gods said, salutation to the Devi, to the great Devi. Salutations always to her who is auspicious. Salutation to her who is the primordial cause, to her who is gracious. With mind's intent we bow down to her. Salutation to her who is terrible, to Gaudi, the eternal shining one, to her who sustains the universe. Salutations again and again. Salutation always to her who is moonlight, who has the form of the moonlight and is blissful. We bow to her who is auspicious beauty. We make salutations again and again to her who is prosperity and attainment. Salutations again and again to her who is the fortune and misfortune of kings, to Sarvani, the consort of Shiva. Salutation always to Durga, who takes us through difficulties, who is the creator and indwelling essence of all, who is right knowledge, and who also appears dark as smoke. We bow down to her who is at once most gentle and most fierce. Salutations to her and again. Salutations to the support of the world. To the Devi, who is creative actions. Salutations again and again. To the Devi, who in all beings is called Vishnu Maya. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who in all beings is seen as consciousness. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of intelligence. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of sleep. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of hunger. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of shadow. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of power. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of thirst. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of forgiveness. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of order. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of modesty. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of peace. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of faith. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of loveliness. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of good fortune. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of activity. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of memory. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of compassion. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of contentment. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of mother. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of error. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. To her who presides over the elements and the senses, and is ever present in all beings. To the all-pervading Devi, salutations again and again. To her who pervades this entire world, and abides in the form of consciousness. Salutation to her, salutation to her, salutation to her again and again. Praised long ago by the gods for fulfilling their desires, and likewise honored daily by the Lord of the gods, may Ishvari, the source of all good, create happiness and prosperity for us, and may she destroy our misfortunes. Tormented by arrogant Daityas, we gods now honor her, the supreme power, with bodies bowed down in devotion. At this moment we remember her who destroys all afflictions. The seer said, O king, while the gods were thus engaged in praise and adoration, Parvati came to bathe in the waters of the Ganga. She who is fair of countenance asked the gods, Whom are you praising? From her own body an auspicious form emerged and replied, This hymn is an appeal to me by those whom the Daitya Shumba cast out, by the assembled gods whom Nishumba defeated in battle. And since Ambika came forth from Parvati's bodily form, she is glorified in all the worlds as Kaushiki. Thereupon Parvati became black, thus known as Kalika. She makes her abode in the Himalayas. Then Chanda and Munda, two servants of Shumba and Nishumba, beheld Ambika's captivating beauty, and they told Shumba, O great king, an unknown woman surpassingly beautiful dwells illuminating the Himalayas. Nowhere has anyone ever seen such supreme beauty. May you learn who that goddess is, and take possession of her, O Lord of Asuras. She abides there, a jewel among women, fairest of limb, casting her radiance in all directions. O chief of Daitya, surely you must behold her. Master, whatever gems and jewels, elephants, horses, and other riches exist in the three worlds, all those now enhance your dwelling. From Indra you have taken Airavata, the jewel among elephants, and also the celestial coral tree and the horse Ucha Shravas. Taken from Brahma, the wondrous jewel among chariots, yoked with swans, stands here in your courtyard. Seized from Kubera, the lord of wealth is his treasure, and the lord of the ocean has relinquished his garland of unfading lotuses. Varuna's umbrella, which showers down gold, now stands in your house along with the best of chariots, which once was Prajapati's. Master, you have taken Yama's sphere, which grants departure from this life. Varuna's noose is among your brother's possessions. To Nishumba belong all manner of gems born of the sea, and to the two of you Agni has given garments purified by his own fire. Thus, O chief of Daityas, you have appropriated all things of value. Why then do you not seize this jewel among women for yourself? The seer said, On hearing these words of Chanda and Munda, Shumba sent the great Ashura Sugriva as messenger to the Devi. Instructing him, he said, Go to her and speak such words on my behalf, that she will be delighted and will quickly come to me. Sugriva went there to the resplendent craggy place where the Devi dwelt, and spoke honeyed words to her in unctuous tones. The messenger said, O Devi, in the three worlds Shumba, the lord of Daityas, is the supreme sovereign. I am his messenger. I have come here to your presence, sent by him who has conquered all the enemies of the Daityas, and whose command is never resisted in the dwellings of the gods. Hear what he says. All the three worlds are mine, and the gods submit to my will. I enjoy each one's share of these sacrifices, every one of them. Indeed, I possess all the finest gems in the three worlds, and I have taken Airavata, the jewel among elephants, and Indra's mount. The immortal gods bowed down in reverence, offered me Ucha Shravas, the jewel among horses, born from the churning of the milk ocean. and whatever else is precious among the gods and celestial beings, all that is mine, O fair one. We think of you, O goddess, as the jewel among women in the world, which indeed you are. Come to us, for we take pleasure in all the finest things. Choose either me or my valiant younger brother Nishumba, for with your flashing eyes you are truly a jewel. By taking me you will obtain dominion beyond compare. With reasoning mind, consider this well, and become my wife. The seer said. Thus addressed, the Devi smiled inscrutably. The blessed, auspicious Durga, who supports the universe, spoke. The Devi said, You have spoken the truth. There is nothing false in what you have said. Shumba is the ruler of the three worlds, and so also is Nishumba. But how can I go back on my word? Here are the vow I once made out of foolishness. He alone who conquers me in battle, who removes my pride, who equals my strength in the world, will become my husband. Therefore let Shumba, or the great Ashura Nishumba, come here. Why delay? Having conquered me, let him take my hand in marriage. The messenger said, You are arrogant, O Devi. Speak not so in my presence. What man in the three worlds surpasses Shumba and Nishumba? Even against the other Daityas, all the gods cannot stand face to face in battle, O Devi. How then can you, who are one woman alone? Indra and all the other gods cannot resist Shumba and the other demons in battle. How will you, a woman, go forth and confront them? As I have said, go to Shumba and Nishumba's side. Suffer not the indignity of being dragged there by your hair. The Devi said, So must it be. Shumba is mighty and Nishumba is exceedingly heroic, but what can I do? My rash vow was made long ago. Go back and tell the chief of Asuras exactly what I have said, and let him do what is fitting. Chapter 6. The Slaying of Dhumra Lochana. The seer said, On hearing the Devi's words, the messenger was filled with indignation. He returned to the king of the Daityas and related everything in great detail. On hearing his messenger's report, the Ashura king grew enraged and said to Dhumra Lochana, the chieftain of the Daityas, Dhumra Lochana, hasten with your army and bring that vile woman here by force, dragging her by the hair, kicking and screaming. If anyone rises up to save her, even a god or other celestial being, he is to be slain. The seer said. Commanded thus by Shumba, the Daitya, Dhumra Lochana quickly set off, accompanied by 60,000 Asuras. And when he saw the Devi stationed on the snowy mountain, he thundered, Come to the presence of Shumba and Nishumba, and if her highness will not come in gladness to my master now, then I will take her by force, dragging her by the hair, kicking and screaming. The Devi said, You who are sent by the Lord of the Daityas are mighty yourself and accompanied by your army. If you take me by force, what can I do to you? The seer said. Thus addressed, the Ashura Dhumra Lochana rushed at her. Thereupon, with a contemptuous outcry, Ambika reduced him to ashes. The great army of Asuras, now provoked, rained sharp arrows, spears, and axes upon Ambika. Then the lion, the Devi's mount, angrily shook its mane. Emitting a terrifying roar, it fell upon the demon army. With blows of its paws, it slew some Daityas and crushed others in its jaws, and it trampled other great Asuras under its hind legs. With its claws, the lion tore into the entrails of some and beheaded others with the stroke of a paw. It tore the arms and heads off others still, and tossing its mane, it lapped up the blood from the bellies of others. In an instant, that noble, infuriated lion which bore the Devi wreaked destruction on all that army. When he heard that the Devi had slain the Ashura Dhumra Lochana, and that her lion had destroyed his entire army, Shumba, the king of the Daityas, shook with rage. His lower lip quivering, he commanded the two great Asuras, Chanda, Munda, go there with immense forces and bring her here at once, seizing her by the hair or tying her up. But if you hesitate to do this, then let all the Asuras with all their weapons strike her down in battle. When that vile woman has been wounded and her lion slain, seize her, bind her, and bring her here without delay. Chapter 7. The Slaying of Chanda and Munda. The seer said, Headed by Chanda and Munda, the Daitya's fourfold army of elephants, charioteers, cavalry, and infantry went forth at Shumba's command brandishing weapons. They saw the Devi smiling gently, seated upon her lion atop the great golden peak of the highest mountain. Seeing her, they contrived to carry her off. While some approached with swords drawn and bows poised in readiness, Ambika cried out angrily against those foes, and in wrath her face turned as black as ink. From her scowling brow Kali sprang forth, frightful of countenance and armed with sword and noose, bearing a strange skull-topped staff adorned with a garland of skulls and clad in a tiger's skin, her emaciated flesh appalling, her mouth gaping, her lolling tongue horrifying, her sunken eyes glowing red. She filled the four quarters of the sky with her roars. Swiftly falling upon the great Asuras in that army, she slew and devoured those hosts of the gods' foes. Attacking the rear guard and seizing the elephants with their drivers, warriors, and bells, she flung them into her mouth with a single hand. In like manner she tossed the cavalry with its horses, and the charioteers with their chariots into her mouth, and ground them furiously between her teeth. She seized one Ashura by the hair and another by the throat. Crushing another underfoot, she slammed yet another against her breast. The weapons and great missiles the Ashuras hurled, she caught in her mouth and ground angrily between her teeth. All that army of mightily and evil-natured Asuras she ravaged, devouring some and beating others severely. She struck down some with her sword and battered others with her skull-topped staff. Other Asuras met their destruction between her gnashing teeth. When Chanda saw the entire army of Asuras swiftly struck down, he rushed at the terrifying Kali. With a formidable deluge of arrows, the great Ashura engulfed the glowering Kali, while Munda hurled discuses at her by the thousands. Myriad discuses that then entered her mouth, as so many solar orbs vanishing into the denseness of a cloud. With a terrifying roar, Kali laughed in fury, her fearsome teeth gleaming within her ghastly mouth. Mounting her great lion, the Devi rushed at Chanda, seized him by the hair, and severed his head with her sword. Seeing Chanda slain, Munda attacked her. She pushed him to the ground and struck him in fury with her sword. Seeing Chanda and also the most valorous Munda slain, the remaining army panicked and fled in all directions, and Kali, grasping the heads of Chanda and Munda, approached Chandika. Mingling fierce loud laughter with her words, she said, "I here present to you Chanda and Munda as two great offerings in the sacrifice of battle. You yourself shall slay Shumba and Nishumba." The seer said, when she saw those two great Asuras Chanda and Munda brought before her, the auspicious Chandika spoke these playful words to Kali. "Because you have overpowered Chanda and Munda and delivered them to me, you, O Devi, will henceforth be known in the world as Chamunda."